bad news, but it's not bad news because there's no such thing as bad news when you know that something's coming ahead of time. You can position yourself to benefit from it or not be a part of it. And this is based off of a post on X that was brought to my attention by a friend named Ralph. Everyone say hi to Ralph for us. He owns a media company himself, a very successful person, and he wanted me to give some context to a post that was done on X by the market sleuth. His name's John. And it's about what happens to the economy when all of a sudden we see a negative jobs report. Now, what's funny about the term negative jobs report is that we've been going negative for quite some time, but the government, and they've used the media, and the media has fallen for it, like all the time. The media falls for it because most media people in finance actually don't know anything about finance. It's funny to me that people can sit on CNBC, Fox Business, and the truth is we don't know their net worth, we don't know their debt, we don't know anything about them financially, but they report the media. They report the news, sorry. And they report the news that the government puts out. Now we know that AI has been crushing jobs. We know that there are less coding jobs today than there were in 1981. That's even before the internet was created. And yet people aren't freaking out and the markets keep going up. And the reason why the markets are going up is because inflation is still there. It's still persistent. And in some cases, it's still rising. But people correlate the price of the stock market with the health of the economy. And that is totally wrong. So I'm going to tell you about this post, and it has to do with something that happened in 2007. And I highly suggest that you look at non-correlated assets like certain cryptocurrencies and gold and silver in these times, because as the Fed starts to lower in their second tranche of lowering, their second round, let's say, of lowering interest rates, it's because things are bad, not because things are good. Okay, that's never, ever, 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 ever happened. Sorry, I got a dry mouth. All right. Also, I'm going to put a link down to that sale. If you're contemplating investing in crypto, please check it out. The Bitcoin 101 and security course. All of the basics to make sure you don't lose your money, you do it safely, you do it right, and you're going to be 10 times ahead of anyone that's owned crypto for years. I'm not joking, because it's just how it works. Links down below to that. All right, this is from the Market Sleuth. It says, Memory Lane, on Friday, September 7th, 2007, the non-farm payrolls issued the first negative jobs report since the bull market began in 2003. August showed net job losses of 4,000, which was later revised to a loss of 28,000. So let me stop right there real quick before we go on with this post. This is really important to know. Type 1 if you have been following my channel for a while and you know how I've been reporting over the last few years, how the government will report some certain numbers and then they'll be much worse as they're revised during the next month or the next quarter. And I've explained over and over again is how people never look at the revisions. All they care about with the blinders on is what's happening today. What's going on to the market with the market today. That's all they care about. And this leads to rampant speculation. It's buy the rumor, sell the news kind of thing. It's horrible. Okay, this is how people get absolutely wrecked in markets. All right, so a lot of you have known about that. All right, so now mind you, back in 2007, when the NFP, the non-farm payrolls report came out negative for the first time, it was that it showed net job losses of 4,000, but it was revised to 28. Okay, all right, cool. It says here, then the S&P fell 1.4% that day. That's a pretty good drop for the S&P, right? Especially back then, because we're talking about much smaller numbers. All right. It fell further on Monday, then it rallied the rest of the week into the first 50-point basis cut on September 18th, 2007. Now, why is this important when we're talking about? This is explaining what happened in 2007 as things got bad and the Fed started lowering rates. Now, we have already experienced a Fed lowering round that happened over a year ago. Okay, it was numerous different times that the Fed dropped points, half a basis point, then 25 basis points, and so on. Then they paused, okay? They did the exact same thing back in 2007, but this is explaining what happened on the first day, the first month that the non-farm payrolls came out negative, all right? All right, and I want you to think about it. The S&P fell a couple days, and then it rallied the rest of the week. Why? Because the Fed lowered rates, all right? And everyone's excited. But we all know what happened a year later with Lehman Brothers and Bear Stearns, okay? This is what's about to happen in the next 12 months. And I don't care who the president is. Type 2 if you agree. It doesn't matter who the president is. You can't fight the bad stuff that's already taking place based on what happened in the past, all right? I'm going to get to how you can make a lot of money from this. It says here, okay, so it rallied into the rest of the week because the Fed cut rates 50 basis points on September 18th. Then it said, then on Friday, October 5th, excuse me, another negative non-farm payroll report, and this time the market closed up 1%. You're like, well, that doesn't make sense, Ninja. Why would the market fall the first time it showed a negative print and they would rally the next time? It's because the Fed was in a lowering stance then, and nobody cared. They just wanted to borrow. But I want you to understand, the people that were borrowing were not Main Street USA. They were not people like you and me. These were big funds that were borrowing money at low rates and then diving money into the stock market, okay, to speculate. All right, they were soon to be wrecked, but they didn't know it at that point in 2007. Now it says now, 6 days later, the S&P topped a mere 1% higher. Every rate cut after was sold thereafter, meaning, so right after that little rally after the second negative print on the jobs report, it rallied because they're like, we're lowering. And then what happened is it rallied 1% more, and that was it. The S&P found its top. And then if you go back and look at a chart of the S&P and the Dow, it started to chunk down. And for an entire year, it's going down. I remember I'd already sold all of my homes, except I had one rental, my personal home, and a piece of land. That's all I had, right? I had like 14 properties at that time. I sold them all by 2006. I was running for the hills saying there's a real estate crash coming. And real estate had already stalled in mid 2006. It really hurt in 2007. And it's just falling precipitously alongside of the stock market at this point, right? Now what happens is as the Fed started to lower rates, they couldn't find borrowers, meaning that everybody had lost their credit score. Main Street USA had lost their credit score, and that's happening right now. As a matter of fact, right now, for the last 2 years, we have had higher school debt, mortgage debt, credit card debt, and auto loans. All of them much higher as a percentage to income than we saw in 2007. As a matter of fact, the numbers are quite staggering. This is like Great Depression level. Oh crap, everyone's over leveraged. Now, should this scare you? Hell yeah, it should. But it shouldn't scare you to go run and suck your thumb in the corner. You should be looking, going, all right, what do I do now? Well, you don't get into more debt. You keep getting out of debt, and you buy inflation hedges. Now, why do I say inflation hedges? As right now, it would seem like the government's telling you the truth. They're not telling you the truth. Inflation is still there. Guys, type yes or no. Is inflation still up or possibly getting worse, or is it going down? Type yes or no. It's no if we don't have inflation, yes if we do. And the truth is, there's no better barometer for the economy than even in the comment sections of some of these YouTube videos, because look, we're dealing with all of this stuff, right? All right. And we're not in stagflation right now because of the employment numbers. So here we go. It said every rate cut after this in 2007 was sold off, meaning that, oh crap, it's bad. Oh crap, it's worse. Oh my gosh, this is horrible, because the Fed keeps lowering rates, right? They couldn't find buyers of this debt. They could not find people to borrow money and speculate in the housing market, the stock market, the bond market, any of these things, because everybody had lost all of the crazy retail buyers. They'd lost their credit scores, and banks had tightened up the lending process. Said here, lowering rates into a slowing economy does bad things when the S&P is at all-time highs. Now, where are we today? It's interesting that most people do not realize this. As a matter of fact, it's funny. There's a YouTuber, I won't say his name. He would never have me on his channel. We know each other personally, but he is scared to piss out. I scare the piss out of him. He's a young man. He's a very successful YouTuber. I'm sitting next to him at dinner one night. He's looking at my watch, staring, trying to contemplate. I already know what he was thinking. I've already been around the block. He's trying to contemplate how I could afford that watch, and he can't. I know what he's thinking already. I wish I could be on his channel because he asks really good questions, but he'd never have me on because he's already judged me by my looks. He's already judged me by the channel. And I can't get anyone that dresses fancy to ask good questions, because most of the people that dress fancy and have all the fancy things in life, they aren't what they seem to be. So they can't ask the good questions. And I can't just come out with good content by going live and just talking to a phone. You know, it has to be pulled out of you. Type 10 if you understand that. Like, good things inside of you need to be pulled out of you sometimes by other people. Anyway, the point of this whole video is that what do you do? Well, the reason why you need to be in inflation hedges is because as the Fed is going to lower rates, those inflation hedges are going to go up because the dollar is going to lose value. As interest rates drop, the dollar loses value, okay? When the interest rates go up, dollar gains value because people want to hold dollars because they're making a rate of return. Haven't you noticed since after COVID, when interest rates started to go up because inflation was skyrocketing, people wanted to hold dollars and put them in money market accounts, CDs, and all that stuff, because for the first time in really 14 years, we had seen a really good rate of, it was not a good rate of return. Compared to zero, it was a good rate of return, but people held on to dollars. And what was sad is they were holding on to some, paper crap money, making 4% a year when they could have been buying silver, since COVID, that's well over doubled. Bitcoin, which is well over, went, 10 times its value, things like that, where you could have made a lot of money. And so the reason why you want to hold these now is because the dollar is going to lose value, and they're going to start to intervene in the markets. Because once the first negative job print comes out, please understand it's not going to be the last. And we're going to go through a cycle of job losses, and that's when the truth comes out. I've done the story about the coder that said he subscribed from this channel. It's laughable. Like, there are people, they're fools. And this is why we have market booms and busts, because humans, by and large, are fools. And they bought into a central bank that just prints crap money and just does whatever they want with it. And they make themselves richer and you poorer. But hey, you know what? You felt sort of rich because you got a fancy car. Well, you don't own it. You're paying payments, but whatever. You got a fancy house. Crap, don't own that either. Hey, what about that driving lawnmower or the refrigerator? I know people that tell me I was crazy and they couldn't even pay cash for their fridge. What's even worse is they were dumb enough to tell me that they got a great, no payments for a year on their fridge. Like, you're just admitting you're an idiot. But you're going to probably see someone down in the comments, and I highly suggest you look down there later today, because someone's going to get offended that I called them an idiot. I didn't call, and that the person might have a name on their thing. Their name is Pam or Pat. We don't know who Pat is. Well, Bill or Fred, and they're offended that I called them an idiot. How dare you call me an idiot? I'm like, well, I didn't call you out by name. So maybe you're an idiot. Maybe internalizing it, you're going, man, I'm an idiot. All this stuff is fake. So what's real? Gold's real, silver's real for monetary instruments. Bitcoin is real. Specific cryptocurrencies. Companies on the blockchain that have only specific amount of, think about how many, you're talking about a stock market in a bubble right now. Do you know all these companies, there's some companies, all they do is print shares and dilute. They go, hey, we got a good earnings coming out. Let's print more shares. Because we don't even got to give them a dividend. This is absolutely insane. So if you want to make money from this, position yourself right. Anyway, Ralph, thanks so much for inspiring this. I hope that you guys got something out of this. Hey, type 100 if you got something out of this. If you didn't, type 99, because that's just one less than 100, and it just means you're like, Ninja, you're just a little off today. Anyway, I got a long drive ahead of me. I'm all packed up. I'm ready to rock and roll. There's a strangely calm iguana in that cage right now. He's being very good. Just thank you, Fred. I'm talking to the iguana, Fred. If you're still upset that I might have called you an idiot, I was talking to the iguana. I wasn't. I was joking. That's just banter for the video. All right. With that being said, the Economic Ninja is out.